So, Mortal Kombat 1. Am I looking forward to this game? Yes, actually. Am I going to be playing it day one? No. Am I not going to be playing it day one because I'm not as excited for it as other games? Well, yeah actually, but also no. My fighting game loving self would love to get onto this game ASAP and just enjoy it, but I'm gonna exercise patience with this one as I was disappointed with MK1 in the long run, so because of my past experiences with that game, I'm gonna be a little more patient with this one. However, today that's not gonna be the focus. Today I'm gonna be talking about what it's being criticized for the most, and that is of course its animation. More so its lack of animation fundamentals, and how people didn't really seem to notice until the previous combat cast. Okay, well that's kind of a lie, I mean people did notice, but they were more focused on the actual feel of the game and how it actually has combos, they were able to overlook it. But it wasn't until they showed off Johnny Cage that people actually started to pick apart / take the piss with Mortal Kombat's animations. And after rewatching the footage over and over again, I can clearly see why that is. It's very clear to see that a lot of the things people take issue with from the past games are still very present in this new upcoming game. So let's go over that. Now, the main reason why I'm focusing on Johnny Cage is, like I said, everyone else is focusing on Johnny Cage. At first I was wondering why that was, but then I realized it's because when you look at every other character, they have some type of flash or fancy effect that does help mask some of their animations, or at least just makes what they do look that much cooler. Johnny Cage, on the other hand, in comparison, he just seems like a regular dude. Now, I get that was kind of meant to be his shtick from the beginning, even in the older timeline, despite being a descendant from gods that... well anyway, story's not important. But in this new title, he doesn't have his force energy, and he's now more focused on being a rushdown pop-up combo character. And it is during his pop-ups and other animations of his special moves that you can definitely notice some of the problems. Whether you're watching it in 60 FPS, 30 FPS or whatever, it's clear as day why Johnny Cage's issues are more prevalent than other characters. Even his splits punch that he does, where he goes down and he punches you in the nuts, you'll notice that he's almost doing it in a perfect 180 on the side, whereas in the other games he seemed to be on an angle where you could see his legs spread apart quite evenly. And another thing I notice is that he seems to be lacking some of his flash, which is very weird to say because if there is one character that is supposed to be flashy all the time, it's Johnny Cage. He's the star, you know, he is the special effect. And interestingly enough, he doesn't seem to have that. Well, actually, I shouldn't say interestingly, more so very annoyingly. And I wanted to compare him to other characters from other games in order to show you the differences. And what I mean by that is, this is where the lacking fundamentals with his animation really comes into play. The motion capture for this game is actually very well done, however it is a little too true to form. And what I mean by that is, there's barely any touch-ups with the animators doing certain things to make poses look more dynamic. That aside, however, what really irks me about Johnny Cage is that his most interesting things that he does is nothing. Okay, let me explain. One of the new things they did to compensate for him no longer having his force ball projectile is that he now has this new dash and taunt mechanic. The taunts will now fill up his hype meter, which is the star you see at the bottom below his EX meter, or you know, his meter burn gauge, whatever they're calling it in this game. By doing this, you get to do special to special cancels once you activate his hype. And for as fun as this may seem, when he cancels specials into specials with this, it does look a little awkward, because like I said, he just looks like a normal dude. So the cancels end up looking like what you would see in some of those fan-made games. More specifically, Streets of Fury EX, this is kind of hilarious because it is damn near identical what Johnny Cage is doing as to what you would see like the Nostalgia Critic doing. The way these cancels, it looks, well, I don't want to say this, but it is the truth. It looks cheap. And like I said, it's because Johnny Cage looks normal. He doesn't have these new flashy effects that other characters have, or the flashy effects that he had previously. So it does look a little strange, and again, as I said, very cheap looking. However, that's just with the Flash and with his hype meter and his taunts. Like I said, they're the only things that look interesting. As for certain attacks themselves, much like the previous games, they really lack that twist. And this is the part where I could just compare him to other characters from other fighting games, but before I get into that, let's first compare Johnny Cage to himself. Now, before you get confused, I'm talking about Johnny Cage from Mortal Kombat 9, as this was one of the criticisms that I saw on Twitter, and even in some YouTube comments on other videos. You see, Johnny Cage has this lift kick that launches the opponent into the air. And in Mortal Kombat 1, it seems like it's going to be the same as it was in MKX, where it is forward 4, rather than back 3 like it was in MK9. Now, the button layout I'm not worried about at all, but the way the actual kick looks itself, I've seen people point out that it looks better in the past game, which was over 10 years ago now. And after playing the game again, I can confidently say, it is a lot better, there's no contest. Like, look at the way he does it in this game. His foot doesn't even look like it should be launching the opponent. It instead looks like it should be knocking the opponent back. But in MK9, while this move does come out a bit too fast for my liking, I do like how Johnny Cage actually lifts both arms above his head, and when he does his kick, you can actually see his leg clipping through his pelvis and his upper body. Yeah, so this game actually did apply some model breaking to actually make some attacks look like, well, attacks. So it's very awkward to see that some of the later games actually ditched this, but Mortal Kombat 9 still retained it. So, that's weird, but also pretty cool. Sadly, none of this is retained in Mortal Kombat 1. With all of Johnny Cage's strings, it just looks like he's going through the motions in a dojo rather than actually fighting someone. Have you ever noticed that his attacks just look like he's just turning and flipping his body without properly shifting his weight? This is where an animator's hand can really benefit the motion capture, but sadly it's just not present. For a direct comparison, let's take a look at Lydia Sobieska from Tekken 7. Lydia is quite similar to Johnny Cage. She's a Shotokan karate practitioner and also the president of Poland. That's actually a pretty badass combination. And the reason why I want to make this comparison to Lydia is because when it comes to talking about breaking model and putting emphasis where it needs to go, many are quick to point to Kazuya for a positive or negative example because of how he breaks his spine to twist his legs around when doing a hell sweep or the triple spin kicks. However, for this positive example, I'd like to focus on Lydia as she's one of the later characters added to Tekken 7, and she actually does imply some model breaking, but you can barely notice it because of how polished she is. Check this combo here, where she actually breaks model twice. If you didn't see it, I don't blame you, because I also didn't see it until I actually went through the footage frame by frame to actually see where it happens. The first one happens right here at the beginning of the combo. Very similar to Kazuya, notice how Lydia turns her upper body right around to completely snap her lower body around. It's not natural and this frame isn't meant to be paused on, but notice how by doing this, it gives the kick a very good whiplash that adds a lot of emphasis and impact to it that would be missing if her whole body was just turning at the same time. And speaking of putting emphasis where it needs to go, Johnny Cage's fatal blow activation bugs me. Let me explain. You see, very similar to Mortal Kombat 9, it's a parry. But unlike Mortal Kombat 9, this thing takes forever to start the first hit. You get the cinematic activation, then he goes into the parry. Whereas in Mortal Kombat 9, you did the parry, and then it went into the animation. My personal issue I have with MK1's fatal blow for Johnny Cage is that I wish the beginning was just a bit shorter. So, I tried to make a little edit where I cut down a few of the frames in his activation.
Scorpion wants nothing to do with this.
Oh! So, it's uppercut brutality, if that was the case.
Scorpion wants nothing to do with this.
Oh! So...
Add a bit more flair to that, and I feel like it would be significantly better. But that's where I'm gonna end the video. I feel like I've picked on Mr. Cage long enough. However, before I go, I first would like to just thank you for sitting through this entire video and listen to me ramble about my nonsense. And I'd like to give a massive thank you and shout out to ABI from Sugar Punch Design Works. It's thanks to this dude and his videos I pay attention to animation a lot more, and I realize just how much I love animation and fighting games because of this dude. So anyway, let me know what you think about the animation as well as Mortal Kombat 1 or even fighting games in general. Because I want Mortal Kombat to have some amazing animation like many other fighting games out there. Because I try to play as many as I can, and I have become in love with so many other fighting games simply because of how they animate. So, until the next video, whenever that's gonna be, I will see you all next time. Again, let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch you on the next one, whānau. Ka kite.